Good morning guys, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration on how to mark out and cut a half lap dovetail joint. So first we'll go through the tools we're going to need. So we're going to need a bench hook, steel ruler, a sliding bevel, mortar saw marking gauge, a variety of chisels, a mallet, tenon saw, square, and later on we're going to use a surface plane as well. And don't forget, obviously a nice sharp pencil. So let's get started. Okay, so first thing I want to do is actually lay out our timber in the orientation that we want. So this piece of timber is going to half lap over this piece, but instead of having a normal half lap, it's going to have a dovetail in the top here. So first thing we need to do is to make sure we get our face and edge marks in the correct place. So in this particular way, so we want a face and edge mark on the top, and I'm going to put my edge mark both going to the left hand side here. Okay, so what we need to do first is mark out the piece we're going to actually cut the dovetail on. So what we need to do is we need to know our width of our timber here. So simply what we can do, take our square, put it up against your face and edge side, don't forget, put it up against your edge side, and then just with my finger here, I'm just checking the outside here so it's nice and flush. Okay, so there, lovely. So then take away your piece of wood, and then you can then, nice sharp pencil, one nice stroke with a pencil, nice thin line. Okay, so then what we need to do is actually find our centre point of our timber. So with our ruler, let's check how wide we are or how thick we are. So this is 30mm thick, so I need my centre point to be 15mm. So what I want to do is just mark that there. Okay, so that's my 15mm, that's my centre point. So now with the square again, we can now square these edges round. So we only want to go roughly halfway. Bring your square up to your pencil, and then just one solid line across. Same again on this side, just a single line up there. Okay, so now we can take our, I've actually got a mortise gauge, but a marking gauge or a mortise gauge will do the same job for this. So what we need to do, set the pin, the single pin, right in the centre of our timber. So making sure you're working off your face side. Pop the pin into your mark that you've already done, 15mm. Pop the pin in so it holds it steady. Bring the stock of your mortise gauge up to the side, and then just clamp that off. Double check it again, and then you can then double check you're in the centre by flipping your mortise gauge over the other side. And if it's in the centre, that should sit right in that mark again. Okay, so that's perfectly in the centre. So now, again, don't forget, face mark, it's very important. So now, with your gauge that line down, light pressure for your first strike, all the way to the end, and then you can go a little bit deeper. Then across the end grain, nice and gently, and then one more, and then last one on this side here. Okay, so now this part will be our waist part. Okay, so we've got that marked out. Now we want to actually cut our waist side out. So in our vise, put your piece of timber at a slight angle so that you can cut straight down on both these top two lines here. We're not going to worry about cutting this side yet, we're going to do this one first. So with our tenon saw, making sure that you're cutting on the waist side of the line. So pop your saw on your line, just this side of it, and then just slowly bring the saw back with your thumb on the side, very gently to get yourself started. Okay, once you've got a good start, then you can push away, concentrating on the top 2 lines here. Every now and again blow the dust away so you can see where you're going. Okay, just increase your stroke length, keeping the saw nice and straight and flat. Take your time with this. Okay, so keep going. Now I'll stop at this line here. Now I'll carry on back here. Okay, I'm down to my line there. Now just flatten out the saw just to finish that off. Okay, so that's them ones done. Then just simply flip it over and we'll do the same again. Okay, I'm down to this line here. Just finish that off. Okay. Then we want to put the piece of timber flat in the vise. And then we just need to finish off a straight cut here. Angle your saw back slightly so you cut this side before you cut this side, so you can double check that you don't go too deep. Once you're down this side, then you can level out, have a look where you are. Okay, I need to go down about another 5mm. Have another check, a little bit further. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Once we have that done, now we can cut our shoulder line. So with your bench hook, pop that in the vise. So now, nice tight grip on your piece of timber in your bench vise. And then you want to start on the far edge. Make sure the saw is back from your line. Just slowly get that started. Making sure you're nice and upright. Okay, once you've got a nice start, then just slowly work the back of the saw downwards so you're coming across your timber. Follow your line down. So I've angled my saw right back now, so I'm concentrating on this line at the back here. Then I'll double check where I am here. Tilt the saw up again. Listen for the saw. It will start to make a different noise as you're almost through. So slow your saw cuts down. There we go. Okay, so that's our half lap cut on our dovetail section. And what we'll do later on is we'll give that a clean up with the chisel, but for now what we'll do is we'll mark out the dovetail. So while I've got the bench vise here, what we want to do is mark the angle for our dovetail. So we're going to do a 1:6 ratio. So with your ruler, mark on here. So it's a bit big, I'm going to do 1 inch from the end here, so 25mm, and then I'm going to go 6 inches up, so that's 150mm. Mark where that is there. So then take your bevel, bring that up to your lines, and where them two lines meet is the angle we want. Okay, so right about there. Tighten up your bevel. Just double check. Lovely. Okay, so that's our angle set. So now we want to actually mark on here our angles. So first of all, we want to come in from the edge here, because it's very difficult to cut right on the very point of your timber. So I'm going to come in, that's going to come in 3mm. So let's go here, 3mm. Same again the other side, 3mm. Square them across. And the other side. Okay, so then on here, I'm then going to take that mark down with our angle. Make sure your bevel is nice and tight on the end grain. Run a line down there, flip over the bevel and do the same the other side. Okay, so that's now our angles. So now we're going to rip down side of our cheeks here of the tail, and then we'll do our cross cut afterwards. Okay, so we'll rip them down first. Pop that in your vise again. Put your line so it's as upright as you can, so your timber's on a slight angle. Take your saw. Again, thumb on the side. Just very slowly get that started. Get as tight to that line as you can. Okay, now you've got a good start. Now you can slowly come down, keeping that saw at the same angle. Don't rush this, just take your time. You are. Make sure you don't cut into your shoulder the other side. Slow your saw down. Okay, lovely, that's it. And then we'll do the same again the other side. And that's that done. Okay. So now we can cut our shoulders. So now we're going to cut these two lines here. Pop that in your vise, nice and level. And then you can then take your saw from the cut you've already made on the back, rest that on the edge of your saw, and then slowly get that started, and then just work your way across. Making sure you're nice and upright with the saw. Like I say, take your time with this cut because this is a showpiece. So roll it down. Okay, and we'll do the other side. There we go. Okay, so that's our dovetail cut out with our half lap already taken off as well. Okay, so we're just going to give this a quick clean up first with a chisel. Pop that in your vise. take yourself a nice sharp chisel, nice sharp inch chisel here, and then I want to clean up these little bits here where the saw has just left it. Just push in gently. Don't need a hammer. Just do this all with your arm weight. Push down. Just slowly take them out. Okay. Okay, that one's nice. And then we'll go over to the other side. Again, just slowly push in. Run your chisel on the back of the dovetail. Okay, and then I've just got a little bit here I just want to trim up as well. Okay, be careful not to tip your chisel this way so that you cut into your shoulder here. You want to keep that as clean as possible. Okay, and then on the back here. Okay, so that's nice and clean and square now. That's all good. And then just gonna have a look at that. I'm gonna leave that for now. I don't want to touch that yet. I might adjust that once we actually go to the fitting stage, but for now, that's perfectly good enough to actually mark out. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, take our other section. What we want to do, lay that on. Okay, so we're going to position that here, so our face marker's here and our face marker's here. So position it on there, and then with a nice sharp pencil, go up the side of your dovetail, don't let it move, and then got the other side. Okay, so that's now our angle we want to cut out. We've already got our marking gauge set for our depth. So again, we can do that now, making sure you're off your face side. First, I'm just going to square these over. Square that over about halfway. And same there. And then the same this side. Okay, so nice and just one stroke with your pencil, so it's a nice thin line. Okay, then we can put our depth on. So with our gauge, I've already got this set. In between your lines, one stroke there, and just one more just to deepen it. Flip it over, face mark here still. That one. And one more. Okay. Pop the line in if you like. Help you see it. Okay, so now I want to cut these out. So again, what I'm going to do is put this actually in the vise so I can keep it nice and still. Okay, with my tenon saw. We want to make sure that we're cutting out obviously this section, making sure our saw is on the inside of that line. Okay, so again, start on the corner, keep your thumb up against the side.
I didn't catch that.
And just slowly start the saw.
I'm not sure I understand.
Slowly work your way across. Keep the sawdust out of your way. So once I'm across, and then tip the saw back ever so slightly. Now I'm concentrating on my line at the back here, whilst keeping the saw in the cut I've already made. Try not to let the end of the saw here come out of the groove, because that's when you can start chattering into your sides here. So try and keep that in the groove, but slowly tipping the back of the saw towards you. So work your way down to your line. Okay, so I'm good there. Now I'm going to go to this side, so I'm going to check where I am. And just slowly keeping that saw in the same groove. Work your way down. Keep checking every now and again, make sure you're not going too deep. Okay, that's good there. Now we'll do the same the other side. Again, get your saw on the corner. Okay, that's that done. Now what we want to do is put one more cut in the middle, one more rough cut to help us remove this material. So now I'll just put one more cut in here. Making sure you don't go past your line. Okay, that's great. Okay, so now we're going to chop this out with a chisel. So you can either put it in a vise like this or like this, but the best way, pop it in on its edge like this, and then you want a chisel that is smaller than your smallest point here at the back. So I've got a 18mm chisel here, that fits in lovely, so that one is the one I want to use. So ever so slightly angle your chisel upwards, and I only want to take off maybe 2mm at a time. So slowly chop across, angling up ever so slightly. Another 2mm down and across. Okay, always working to the middle, don't go all the way through. Try and take too much off at a time, that's when you get big chunks splitting out. So just a little bit at a time. Okay, so I'm just going to the middle every time. Okay, so I'm almost down to my line here. So now I'm going to flip over. Do the same from this side. Start at the top here, a little bit at a time. Okay, so I'm almost down to the line again. So now I'm going to work from this way. You don't want to work this way because you could accidentally chop into the side of the sidewalls here and damage this part. So work from this way first. And then I don't need the hammer now. I'm just going to choke down on the chisel so that I can't go too far through, so I don't blow out the back here. So thumb on the top, finger just behind, just to let me push in. Just slightly wiggle the chisel and then that will push in. So go across. taking off any high spots, and then I'm going to slowly go down a little bit further. I've got about 2mm left, so I'm going to do half of that. Let's do a tiny bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to actually go into my line. Slowly push across. Okay, so I'm happy with that so far. Flip over, do the same this side. So what I don't want to do is take too much at once, because then you pull the grain up and then you have a big chunk come out rather than nice smooth little ribbons of timber. So just work your way across. Have a look where you are. Just need a little bit more off this side. If you haven't gone quite deep enough with your saw, chisel on edge, just go down that line just to make sure that all comes out in one clean bit rather than big chunks. Okay, so that is what we need there. So that's nice and flat now. What you can do, take a square or a ruler and just go across, having a look down, making sure there's no high spots, and if there are, mark them with a pencil if you need, and then just take them out until it's all nice and flat. Okay? Okay, once you've got that all smoothed out, it's nice and flat all the way across, all cleaned out, no fairy bits anywhere, and we're ready to give it a try. So just be careful, if it is too tight, don't bash it in with a hammer. Just have a look where it's touching. Okay, and the best thing to do is to press on with your thumb and just give it a little wiggle at the back. Okay, so that is looking pretty good for a first try. I'm just a tiny bit high here. You can see I'm nice and tight on my gaps, shoulders are all sitting very nicely. I just need to take a little bit more out of the middle and then that will fit nicely. So we'll just do that now. In fact, what I'll do is I'll take it off this side. Again, pop it in your vise. Don't hold it in your hand. All you're going to do is damage your hands. So I can see I've got a little saw cut here I just want to take off. So ever so slowly. Tiny little shaving at a time. Okay, don't go too far and then you've taken too much off when you've taken all this time to get it nice and accurate. So have a little try, have a double check. Okay, that's it, much better now. So now I'm nice and tight up all on my edges here, on my shoulders, And now what we do, just to finish it off, pop it into your vise. Nice and tight. Get yourself a nice sharp plane. Okay, you only want a tiny bit of blade out, just to smooth it off. So that once. And then, so that's it. So we're nice and crisp on the end there.